Trying to think what we should do. She's got a cute face. I want to do something that's not going to be too much trouble for you to fix, but it's going to be hard because you don't have that hair that's easy. So you're going to have to straighten it. I don't believe in straighteners, chemical straighteners, because I think they ruin the hair. So. I'm not exactly sure what happened.
How many times
This can be defined with 2 words. Beauty school. I'm always playing with this. You're a good sport about it. The next step that I need to do is wash, condition, and reconstruct your hair and have you come back. Me prep it, put products in it, and look at it. Then I'll have a better idea of what we can do with it. Your hair's very straight. No?
No.
But it's definitely not what we were looking at before. Okay? It resembles hair now. So as I would not release and layer all this hair because what's going to happen? It's going to shrink. Right. So we need to leave it somewhat like kind of a bob. To me, an easy way to change this hair and put a lot of style into it is to cut the back off and let this hair down here be more longer but still textured and cool. But remember, the key is the thermal change, because if I do this cut and she does not blow it out and maintain it, it's going to look not good whatsoever. But if she does do that, it's going to look amazing. Okay? Are you committed to doing that? I don't want to do this haircut if you're not committed to.
Do it.
Go short in the back, like a shaggy sort of cool short line back here, and then we'll start building weight up on the top. That's very hard to control because you can see the different curl patterns she's got. So I'm going to take this product, which is blow dry serum. Besides being literally the best blow dry serum that I have ever used, and I've used every product, this product will help guard the hair against the razor. There's 2 things or 3 things that I'm looking for. Number 1, I'm looking at the head shape. That's number 2. Number 1, right off the bat, head shape. What head shape am I working with here? Every single person in this room has a different head shape. Every single person in the world has a different head shape to some degree. Head shapes are very influenced by race. Okay? So anthropologists can dig up a skull somewhere and tell you exactly the race of that person from the shape of their head. So what I have to do is I have to look at the head and I either have to go with the shape that she already has or I have to counter it to correct or to give it the illusion of creating that shape. Just as any good makeup artist does, you play up the good and you diminish the bad. You do the same thing with hair cutting. All right, so it's got a nice head shape, it's got a nice turn. Not too steep of an occipital. That you look incredible. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to just create a nice soft line here. How you doing? That's nice and soft. How does that look? Okay. Here's the thing. We're doing an A-line. I've set my mark here for the haircut. Now, my next section will be through here, and now I'm going to create the illusion of a curve. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to pick up another tool now. Quite often, matter of fact, almost never will I start with one tool and finish the haircut with that same tool. I'll almost always change tools during the cut now, because I'm going to use the curve, I'm going to use the length to help me achieve what I'm looking for. So I go down to the center, and I want to create, out from the head, I want to create a line, an angle, that's going to create that rounded look. So I hold the head, hold my hands out. This is called free cutting. I want this line to be very erratically cut, choppy, no connection. We'll give it a cool, modern texture. So I can't do it in my hands, because if I try to cut this erratically in my hands, I'll end up cutting my hands all up. So there's a technique that I teach, it's called free cutting. It's cutting outside your hands. It's a great way to cut hair, and you have to really master it, okay? So that's how you create that kind of texture on the edges. Next, I'm going to take this and I'm going to over-direct that into the center. By over-directing it into the center, each time I take this section from here to here to here to here and over-direct to the center, I will be building up more length in the corners. You guys understand? So that then when it's time, when all this hair is cut back here, then it will fill in here, and that's what starts your A-line. So I'll take that out, like so, out from the head. There's a guide in here, and then I cut on the guide, free. Come through here, take one more section, over direct to the center. There's my guide. All the techniques that I'm showing you today. You go into a job interview and you do these haircutting techniques in front of your would-be new boss, he will freak out and hire you within 2 seconds, okay? Because he will go, what frick, and where the shit did you learn that? And then the kind of techniques that my brother and I use and have innovated are extremely progressive, and they give you extremely progressive modern hair. This section here, which is on virtually what we call the flat of the head. See, everything under this line is all flat. See how the comb sits on it? Okay, so it's flat. On this cut, my rule is, because I want to keep the weight, keep the length, keep the heaviness, flat, plain, flat, cut flat against the skin. So that's when I know now that I'm going to cut against the skin. It's coming from the flat plane of the head, so anything that is in the flat plane of the head will be cut on the skin. Now the reason it will be cut on the skin is because the more you elevate hair, the lighter it becomes. And this, I want this to be heavy so that it can fill in here. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I take that and cut it back on the skin. There. Now over here, we're going to free cut this side, but you also have to learn how to cut in many different ways, and especially, and a lot of you guys that have been cutting in here, you're realizing that sometimes one side is harder than the other. True, guys? Okay, and that's because of the position of your body and her body and so forth. So over here I'm holding this like this and I'm cutting down, but I can't do that here because look, her shoulder's in the way, so I can't hold it the same way. So what you have to do is eventually train yourself to be able to do that same exact angle from the bottom up too, okay? It's not easy, believe me. But like I said, you come to my class, and especially if you dedicate yourself and take my advanced classes, after that, you will master all this stuff. I will make sure of it. Now this goes on the skin.
Are we going to have a chance to practice in your class?
Yes, yes, you do the hair cutting, and then we coach you through, and then in the advanced classes we limit the amount of students, so you get a lot of special care, and I love it. Okay, so you can see now we're starting to build a curve in the head, see? Okay, now, next section we want to build even more of a curve. So we take another section down like this. I'm going to use now another tool, or another technique, I should say. I'm going to use the same tool, but I'm going to use a different technique. I'm going to use the curved shears, but now I want to have this line break up even more and create a softer line on top. So now we take it like this, and we're going to point cut it. I know a lot of you guys do point cutting. Point cutting is cutting into the ends of the hair. This, though, has a challenge, and the challenge is, here is my angle, right? How in the hell am I going to point cut into that without cutting my fingers all apart? So what you want to do is, I want you guys to, from this I want to share with you the concept that usually most hairdressers don't get for years after they're in the business. And the concept is that if you cannot cut something one way, there's always another way that you can achieve it, okay? So I still want to achieve that, but rather than cut it like this where gravity takes it down and makes it impossible, it's very simple to cut the same line by doing this. Let gravity take it, work from the bottom up into the hair. You have that same exact angle that you're looking for, okay? So you can hold angles many different ways. You do not want to become a robotic hair cutter. You know, there's a lot of hair cutters, they just follow a pattern. Everything's the same. They're never looking at the head, they're never looking at what's happening, they're never looking at the texture. It's robotic. You do not get sexy, beautiful, unique haircuts that way. You get some of the most ugly haircuts in the world are the most even haircuts in the world, if you know what I mean. You can go to a place and get a perfectly even haircut and it could be horrible looking. It's not about precision in this day and age. Back in the 60s and 70s, it was all about precision. It was the age of Vidal Sassoon, geometric haircutting. Okay? Now, it's a different vibe. Now what we're looking for is we're looking for balance. We're looking for movement. We're looking for shape. We're not looking for precision. So you want to learn precision. You have to know how to cut precision. But that's not what's in right now. But you still have to master the precision. I'm not saying don't master it. You must master it. But right now, freestyle haircutting is what's in. And that's creating these shapes like this. Okay? Some people are very precise-minded, and here's why. Those are the people that come into the business and they're not all that creative. They're more like the person that's like, I got a job to do, I'm going to get it done, and you know what I mean? Here's the steps I do to do it, and that's the way I do it. And then there's other people who work with the hair and play with the hair and maneuver it and mold it. That's the kind of hairdresser you want to become. Not just a technical robot. And that takes mastering the basics. Everything in life is really the basics. If you master the basics, then you have the principle for every single thing. And then it's all about theory. You have to learn not just how, but why. Why does the hair do that when I cut it this way? Or how do I create that particular texture? With what technique do I work with? Once you start learning all that, then you're home free. Now you have complete charge of your creativity. So this is starting to look really cool. Got a nice, cool concave layer. Head is looking extremely round. Okay. Now we're going to soften up a little bit. We're going to take another section on top of that. We're going to blend it all with a razor. We're going to have it mesh and move. This is what I'm talking about. Now I'm going to come out of the precision box and into the freestyle box. Take the razor. Now what I want to do is I want to create a beautiful soft movement in this hair, okay? With a light top that stacks up, creates that beautiful curve. So I'll do it with this technique. It's done with the razor. It's called sculpting.
Do you also cut the previous layer when you're
Cut
doing
in
that?
some of the previous, and you're cutting. So you have to have the ability to come out of the box and out of the numbers into the freestyle, and that's all visual. See what it does? Creates all kinds of soft, beautiful textures in the hair. In a slow way, if I was to teach that to you, I would teach it this way. What's happening is it's not just, it looks like I'm just kind of going crazy in the hair and then it comes out like that, but really what's happening is that it actually is got very much a basis to it. And the basis is this. What I'm trying to achieve by doing what I just did on this side, I'll go over it with you now. I'll tell you what's in my head. Okay, I want to create sort of like grooves in the hair. As I create each groove, it will create the movement that I'm looking for, like this, okay? I take the corner of the razor and I start slicing down through the hair. This razor is literally hitting the head. Some of the hair underneath is being cut that short. You'll never see it. It will never stick out. It will all mesh because it doesn't have a uniformity to it. It's all variable. But what I'm doing in my head is I'm taking this corner through, creating that movement, and where I'm zipping the hair off is right at this hairline. See the hairline where I'm creating the weight? That's where this razor, boom, cuts it off. So I come through, create the groove, then I cut it off at that weight line. Just like I held it over here where I cut the corners on the skin, remember how I did that? Held them down? The razor has to do the same thing because the angles stay the same, the tool changes to create the different technique and different finish. But watch, what happens is I come through, now look at the razor starting to change its angle. See the angle? Now it comes through here. By the time I get down to the corner, look, I'm down flat on the skin, just like I was with the scissors. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. Now what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with kind of like these strings, see? And that I just created that by creating all those channels with this. I want this because now I'm going to go to the very last final stage of the haircut in the back. And what you can do, if you end up doing this haircut, you can do one of two things. You can leave it like this and then somehow talk your client into joining Hare Krishna, or you can connect it in like this. Very steep, very severe angle, but once again we'll create all kinds of killer shape and texture back here. When you see this finish, she's going to have just an amazing shape and texture in the back of her hair. And I want you guys to think all the way back to the back of her hair before we started cutting it and what it looked like. And now pretty much what you're looking at is something that's going to have a ton of style. It will all go under. We're going to shoot the A-line in as long as we can from here to here, drop it in. You can see that's going to have tons of style. It is short, but it's very feminine, okay? And this line will go under, or it will also go up. So it will have a very cool variety of things that we can do with this line. Yesterday I did this haircut at Paul Mitchell School, and I styled the whole thing up like this. It was awesome looking, see? Okay. And you know what I call this. What do I call it? Duck butt, right. This is a duck's butt. If it looks like a duck's butt, if it resembles a duck's butt, you did it right. Now we'll detail just a little bit down here. That's going to look awesome, okay? Now we're going to drop. How you doing? You haven't taken a breath yet. Once again, you guys, this hair is extremely fragile. Just the texture of her hair is very fragile. So we got to very much make every single thing, every single cut that we do count. When you're working with somebody with a very thick head of coarse hair, every section doesn't count. You can waste a lot of sections if that makes sense. But with this, we've got a very small amount of hair we're working with, and it's very delicate, so you can't make any mistakes.
What are you putting on her hair?
This is my blow dry serum. I have never used a product for blow drying the hair that gets the hair as smooth, as shiny, as bouncy, as frizz-free as this product. I made it. I'm going to take half the credit for it. My chemist really gets 75% of the credit. But we tested this so many times, you guys, till it was virtually, we thought, perfect. We're going to drop the length in here now, very steep. One of the things we don't want to do with this line is cut it real short like this. It would look kind of cute, but it would lose its funk, okay? We got to keep it funky. So to keep it funky, we need it very steep. And the way you do that is by taking your razor, turning it on a 45 and doing this, little stair steps all the way down the hair. Okay? That will give you a nice blend and keep that length that we're looking. I'm not looking for all the length. I don't want to keep all the length. And the reason is that I'm not going to keep all the length is that two reasons. One is her texture won't support like a really long length. It won't look good. It will be like it will break up. And two is her face, it won't be good. Too long of a length on her face is gonna. Have you ever seen somebody that has a haircut and they look like they have dog ears? You know what I'm saying? It's like it's too much. We want the length, but we don't want it to keep it all. Next section.
Why are you doing that?
Just because I feel like it. Good question. What I'm doing there is I'm actually taking the line and doing something. Bend the angle. Bend it. Everybody teaches you how to cut straight lines, either flat, this way, that way. I'll teach you how to take a line and look. Literally bend the line like this, see? Because what I've done here is I've bent it to the shape of the head. When I take it out like that, I take the weight out and I connect all the length to the weight on a perfect blend like this, see? All right? See, this will also be cool if you like do this in a duck's butt and then you got this one all, it'll look awesome. It'll be funky. Like a bull-legged monkey. Have you guys ever seen a bull-legged monkey? Have you ever seen a bull-legged monkey? They're extremely funky. I say stupid jokes, don't worry about it. You don't have to laugh. Matter of fact, just look at me and go, whatever. I have like my own weird way of looking at shit. It comes from many acid trips. Back when I was young, I used to eat a lot of acid and cut hair, and I'd come up with all these techniques. Don't tell anybody. Just kidding. Never eaten acid in my life. Matter of fact, I'm totally anti-drug. Drugs, no good. Down with drugs. Get high on hair. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. This side, I want this side to be longer than the other side because when you do things really square and perfectly even, what you do is you stress the hell out of the person's face. Does that make sense to you? If you put a perfect parting right in the middle of somebody's face, stress. If you put a perfect even line on somebody's face, stress. You put a perfectly straight bang like this, it stresses. In other words, what I mean by stress is it takes every aspect of that person's face that is not perfectly symmetrical and brings it glaring out at you. But when you take something and cut it, you move it. When you move it, you soften it. So in this day and age of hair, you're looking for balance, movement, softness, texture, volume. Support.
haircut uneven naturally.
That's another thing, you guys. You see, look, it's all about moving my client around. I'm in control. Well, back in the day when I burned and scorched her head, she was in control. And that's what happens in beauty school. It happens to everybody. I was also freaked out myself. One of the scariest things that you'll have to encounter, especially now, because when you're new, you tend to let people run and get away with murder.
Do you do men's haircut also?
I love doing men's hair. Thank you. All right. Do you guys remember hair back in the 80s?
Yeah.
It's a different girl. That's what happens. When you walk in front of me, that's the shit that happens. This is a form of razor cutting that you literally take your thumb, snap it against the razor, and then pop. The hair will come off. It's blunt. It's blunt. Now remember, we got to thermally change this hair. You got to come in and blow dry it. But once we do, it's going to look totally different. It's going to look it's going to look healthy. It's going to have a lot of style to it. But once again, I had to get a commitment from her that she's willing to go through that. If the person's not willing to go through it, you don't want to do something like this on them. You're going to make their life too much work. Okay, now we go back to the curved shears. We're going to loosen up the front a little bit. I want to leave this front long, but she's got an existing bang that was already cut in here. She's got sort of like baby hairs, and underneath here, she's got a bang that's kind of it's either broken or from a previous cut. We're going to work with it, because all the time you have to work with something that's already existing in the hair. You can't have it. So my goal here is going to be create movement, soften the face, build a focal point. I mean, a good way for her to wear her hair if she doesn't want to go through a lot of big blow dry hassle would be sort of to do something like this. Kind of make the back go up, let this kind of come over. I mean, it wouldn't be the best for it, but it would be an okay way to wear it if she just didn't want to hassle it on a lazy day. That's called primer. This strengthens. It's 4.5 pH, so it puts the hair in a beautiful state. It's great. In simplistic terms, it's a great aid for working with the hair, and it will take all the frizz out of the hair, create massive amounts of shine, and never hold the hair heavy. Now we're going to take this, we're going to create a focal point. See the angle of her bang? It goes from short to long. We're going to switch that angle because we want the hair to come back this way, side sweep across the face. So because I'm going to want this hair to come side sweep across the face this way, I'm going to do what's called over direction. I'm going to direct it on literally the other side of the head to cut it. Because the farther that I take the hair away from its base to be cut, the more movement it has when it returns. That's how you create side sweep. You cut it in the opposite direction, and when it returns, it has movement for the sweep. So we take it over here, cut it. The next one follows. There's a fine line between and cutting the front with just enough texture to sit nice. So you can't overdo either one of them. You can't cut that length off and you can't overdo it here. There's a balance. All right, then the next section here, over direct again. Bend the angle. Over direct again. Bend the angle. What you get from bending the angle is you get part of it high and part of it low, which will give you an extremely beautiful movement in the hair when you cut it this way. Once again, that kind of stuff, though, is going to be hard for you to learn from a hairdresser who doesn't understand that. This is a different approach. Kind of like the difference between a painter who paints like pictures of trees and a painter who paints abstract colors and shapes. Do you understand what I mean by that, you guys? One is more bold for effect. The other one is more subtle. I like to do bolder hair. That's why freestyle hair to me is awesome, because I want a haircut that somebody can look at and go, wow, that haircut's really cool, it's unique, it's like a one of a kind, you know? That an artist uses in their studio are the same exact principles that hairdressers use in their salon all day long. Hair is a complete and thorough art form. You're using balance, direction, movement, texture, color, shape. It's exactly what an artist does. It's just using a different medium. We're doing hair, they're doing something else. But so don't think that doing hair is not creative. It's exactly what every artist does with a different substance. I was so sure of it, that belief, that hairdressers are artists. Some people will dispute that and say, no, hairdressers aren't really artists. And I'll say, you're wrong. I was so convinced of that belief that hairdressers are artists and that I could use the same principles that I do in hair towards other forms of art and achieve it. I was so sure of that that I did a very stupid thing. I got into being an artist with no training, no art school. I'm now doing a book of my artwork and of my sculptures. I never had anybody teach me any of it. I use the exact same principles that I use in hair, but I sculpt stone with it. I make paintings with them. I do the exact same thing, you guys. This is going to be awesome. Look how freaking groovy you are right now. Be an awesome change. Let's get a little lift in here. I'm going to keep the sides long, but I want the middle textured. I want to be able to sprout this bang like a pineapple. Sprout this top like a pineapple. For you guys that are freshmen back there, I want you to realize that being a freshman does not mean that you guys cannot be good or that you have to wait to take a class or that you're not ready or any of that bullshit. Now's the time to jump in. Jump into these classes now. I was telling these guys a story about my brother. My brother ended up being one of the top hairdressers in the world, literally. When my brother started, I thought there's no way he's going to be a good hairdresser because I'd never seen him do anything creative. I just couldn't envision it because I'd never seen it. But he was amazing. He jumped in. We started him off from the very beginning, cutting hair like this, never through basics. I taught him this kind of stuff right from the second he touched scissors. He ended up being amazing, 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 above almost everybody else. Because of the way he was trained, he was so immersed in it that he became so good at it. And it all starts off, it's like, you know, have you ever noticed any genius in something always starts off like they were 4 years old and they were playing the piano, you know? That's what you want to do. You want to immerse yourself in it. Don't wait. Yes?
You're doing directional change. You're going inward and then you're going opposite wide.
Yes, ma'am. Let me show you the two. One is I want to create a base. The other one is I want to lighten the ends. Okay? So together they work in unison. The short pieces support the long pieces for lift. If the long pieces are cut like this, they'll support even more because they're lighter. Understand? So when you want in hair, you have to create the volume in hair is always created from underneath. It's always created in the base. So this gives it the base, and then this softens the edge. Make sense?
And where else would you use that? That's always usually on the crown.
Wherever you want lift and volume. Now let's blow it dry. This will be fun to look at when it's dry. Okay, here we go. So